Providing a pathway and a future for small farmers to be able to package their product with the same machinery that the corporate interests are using.
Got folks that have risked everything, risked their homes, they've taken out mortgages, they've sold their old businesses.
I've been pounding the drum that cannabis is ag, cannabis is ag.
It's part of that Emerald Triangle, but it has the best climate.
I think we made hash before we made weed. Hashish is definitely my passion.
So everyone, we're here in Lake County, California with another installment of CannaCribs. But this one is a little bit different. We are going to visit the first of its kind. It's a cannabis co-packing facility. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry, we're about to describe it. But we're also going to be hanging out with some cannabis royalty that helped put this operation together, including Autumn Karcey, Shord Brooks, and Brett Berg. And if you don't know who they are, definitely stay tuned to find out. This one is going to be one for the record books. Let's get popping. So for those people watching who are like CannaCribs veterans, they know who you are. Because yeah, you've hosted Deep Roots episodes.
I did season 3.
Yeah. And now let's talk about why we're here together. It's because now you are no longer a host. We are coming to your facility to film a CannaCribs episode.
Yes.
You have such a long career in the cannabis industry. You are so well respected by the people who know cannabis cultivation. Let's even talk about what you're doing now. Because this project that you have going on here in Northern California is super unique. So why don't you tell us about Artemis?
Artemis is a co-packing facility, 67,000 square feet that's spanned over 7 different buildings. Each are dedicated to a different part of the process. So we are all post-processing after cultivation. Primarily, we work with outdoor product. We also work with indoor product, but we also offer a 20,000 square foot drying facility to outdoor cultivators that mimics an indoor cultivation drying facility. And cannabis, primarily from where it started from, it was this vertically integrated model where the farmer had to do everything. We're just targeting kind of the small piece, the packaging, the manufacturing, and the drying services. And I think we do those things really, really well. And then we work with all the amazing cultivators within this region to bring product into our facility.
So you guys are coming in like this co-packer. I almost kind of think of it this way. If you're a fashion designer and you create a work of art, then you need to go to a textile factory, and they say, cool, you've created this art.
Right.
Now we will make sure that we can make 1,000 of them so you can bring it to market.
Exactly. You've got folks that have risked everything, risked their homes, they've taken out mortgages, they've sold their old businesses.
Yeah, Autumn mentioned, we were having dinner last night, she was like, there are some growers out there that will literally harvest their crop and then 6 months later, they're still trimming it and packaging it themselves. Exactly. In that amount of time, the amount of labor that it costs, it's like they can't then compete with the Goliaths in the industry who have all this automation. But you guys have kind of like changed the economics of how those people operate. And it's like an exercise in a resistance to the over-corporatization of the cannabis industry.
Right.
So Artemis is the goddess of the hunt, and we are hunting for the best fire cannabis that we can procure within our facility. And we are proud to say that we're 100% women-owned, which is very rare for a cannabis company of our size, and I'm very proud of that fact. I was a cultivator for about 10 years under the medical program in California. So I started cultivating in about 2003, and Did that for about 10 years, later moved into warehouses under the medical program and started building out kind of larger scale facilities, but still small compared to what we see today. A few years later, I was pulled up to Canada when they decided to federally legalize, and I was consulting on a project there with Ed Rosenthal that was a 360,000 square foot indoor facility. Very much feeling a lot of imposter syndrome, like what am I doing in this room? What can I possibly teach these people about building design? And then I looked at kind of the plan set that they were going to build and the proposals they were making. And they had spent, millions and millions of dollars in the wrong direction on these plans. And so we kind of went in there, redesigned everything, saved them millions of dollars overnight, and then suddenly kind of became the consultant for indoor cultivation facilities and build out specifically. I did that for the last, 15 plus years, and that kind of led me to this project.
You're really politically involved in the state of California with cannabis legislation, licensing, things of that sort. You're tapped as a subject matter expert to speak in front of politicians. Tell us kind of what's going on in the California market, because not a lot of the cannabis operators are very happy right now.
Yes, unfortunately, by and large, California should have been one of the best markets, if not the best market in the world for cannabis. And unfortunately, laws are often written by people that don't understand the business proposition. And so when they came out with the general fund for cannabis, they taxed it all the way up. And at that time, outdoor was worth $1,000 a pound. Now today, you're seeing this oversaturation in the market, and cannabis oftentimes is worth less than it costs to cultivate it. So you kind of have this boom and bust situation in California where the taxes haven't really met us where the market is going. You're taxed at the nursery level. You are taxed on the amount of canopy you have at the state level, and then you're also taxed by your local municipality on top of the state tax. And then when you go to put it into a product or a manufactured product, it's taxed again, and then it's taxed at the retail level at a 15% excise tax additionally. So by the time you get to that end of the line, no agricultural commodity product is taxed in this fashion. And so what you have is this mass extinction event of farmers all across California. I get calls of individuals going out of business probably almost every single week. You have a legacy market that's gone on for decades, right? And then you have this legal market that was supposed to create a pathway for those legacy operators to enter the market, but the barrier of entry is so high and so expensive that they can't.
Organiplug pre-filled trays can increase cloning success in gardens. Commercial gardens often note a 5 to 10% increase in cloning success with the pre-filled trays, along with a 1 to 2 day reduction in rooting time. On top of that, they're a huge labor saver. Propagation teams skip the process of soaking plugs and then filling your trays with loose plugs. Believe us, your team will thank you. The proprietary cocoa peat and biopolymer pre-inoculated blend that make up our Organiplugs, they buffer EC and pH better than the competition, and feature an optimal air-to-water balance to give plants maximum cloning success. They can be used as a rooting plug in all growing media types, such as cocoa, soil, peat, and even rock wool. Want even faster rooting? Try the pre-filled tall plugs for even more vertical surface area and a larger root zone to increase your water, oxygen, and overall resiliency of your cuts. You can purchase Organiplug pre-filled trays in a single trays of 50 plugs, cases of 5 to 7 trays, or entire pallets for maximum savings. Our pre-filled trays come with a money-back guarantee. Fill out the form in the description below to get 20% off your initial order.
Taking it back to early 2020, and I had just wrapped all of these really intense projects that I spent 2 and 3 years working on, and the pandemic hit, and it was kind of like a reset.
Yeah.
For everybody. And
I had the same. I was in Arizona under lockdown with my kids, and nothing going on for a minute. It was like this moment of stillness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I got to do something. I just wanted to get my hands back in the dirt So after
Yeah.
helping to design these glass houses, there was just a need to get back in the ground.
We looked up and down the coast and property to property. We kind of split up and covered the gamut of California. And I think what we came up with was a lot of these coastal regions where they allow it as a use have a lot of issues with mold and mildew.
This area is just perfect because you can grow, in most areas you can grow into November. Not every year, but most years.
Yeah.
So the varietals that you choose, you have so much more of a varied range. It's part of that Emerald Triangle, but it has probably the best climate. But like with grapes, they grow a lot of grapes in Lake County too, but they're generally boxed as coming from Napa Valley because
Right.
the grapes fetch a higher price, the wine fetches a higher price.
Sure.
And Lake County was always that, the poor cousin almost, you know, where a lot of it was produced and then sold as part of the Emerald Triangle. I really wouldn't, I mean, having grown in Lake and Red Bluff, it's a little bit hotter in the Central Valley. We get a little bit of the coastal influence. We have elevation changes here.
And you can plant that many more varieties. You have that many more selections where certain climates, like coastal regions, you're stuck with certain cultivars because that's what functions well in that environment. When we got here, it was an old plastics factory, and they used to build, you know, similar to the hard plastic cases that you put all your cameras and lenses in, music equipment, things like that. And it was just really corrugated metal shells, very little insulation. There's 7 buildings on this campus that total about 67,000 square feet. Every 10 years as their business grew, they would add another building. So we have buildings from 1966 all the way to 2007. So although it's nice to have a big campus, each building was its own unique set of problems to deal with.
What were some of the things that you were able to bring from, I guess, you know, all of your experience building commercial facilities all over the world to this facility, things that you really lean on?
I think first and foremost is like the bones of the operation would absolutely be the walls. These are DPS insulated metal panels, or IMP panels as they're commonly known. The great thing about this building material, which I've been using for years and years, and I put them in almost every facility that I build out. So if you have typical drywall and stick frame construction or metal, it's this like 6-step process just to get a wall set. These panels, they're tongue and groove. You caulk the seams and then you put them together, and it's kind of like set it and forget it. And then you come through and you put all your electrical surface mounted on the outside, so everything is really easy to access if you have an issue with it. They're antimicrobial 26 gauge steel on the outside, so it really provides a clean, impermeable surface, so you can wipe all your walls down. They have a very high insulation value. And also the 12-inch panel that they make for all of our ceiling caps, those have like a 10-pound per square foot live load on a span of 30 feet. So you could literally park a truck on them. So it'll hold any of your lighting, dehumidifiers, anything that you want to hang on that ceiling. Depending on how much and your structural calculations, you can usually do it with that 12-inch panel.
Got it. And like, you guys do drying in a very unique way using the tote liners of 275-gallon liquid totes.
The IBC totes, the metal cage around the IBC
And you can
totes,
like stack cannabis in this like Lego-like way where you can get like the volume of cannabis you fit in that building is like, it's impressive.
Yeah, it's like adult Tetris. So when you see the guys with forklifts stacking the cages and moving everything around, it's really like a game of Tetris. By nature of QA/QC, we've had to create vertically integrated models all the way through with cannabis. Can you talk about in agriculture how that just is not the way that it is?
It's difficult to do everything, especially in California with the regulatory framework and the tax structure, and you know, it's difficult to do anything really well. It's getting almost impossible to do everything.
Right.
You know, to run the nursery, to get the materials on time, not being able to write anything off, for instance.
Providing a pathway and a future for small farmers to be able to package their product with the same machinery that the corporate interests are using is super important.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about Lake County, I've met more female cultivators here than I have anywhere in my career. Like there's just a lot of women cultivators here, and so it's kind of a very
They're the
nice
best growers in my opinion, a lot of the time.
I think so too. I'm here with Jennifer Smith, the co-founder and CEO of Naughty Squirrel Farms. We're at her outdoor sun-grown farm. Jen, this place looks amazing.
Thanks.
What variety are we looking at right here?
This is Kush Mints right here. This is definitely our most vigorous and hungry and tall, happy plants.
It seems like people are kind of die-hard one way or the other about they either love indoor, they love outdoor, or they love greenhouse, and then nothing else matters. And I kind of feel like there's a place for everything. What are some of the differences that you see and why you chose to do an outdoor farm?
We started indoor 7 years ago, and then we switched to outdoor. Really from a sustainability and production standpoint, we like the natural sunlight. We're in California.
Yeah.
We should be taking advantage of the natural sunlight that we have.
Sure.
Research and our own results have shown that the natural sunlight really produces a higher terpene level. And as we're educating the consumers and moving hopefully towards a more terpene-based selling points rather than just highest THC, I think that's where you're really gonna see outdoor excel in the market.
And you guys just won gold at the California State Fair. You actually got 2 trophies at the California State Fair.
2 gold medals and a golden bear, yes. And we had the gold medal and the golden bear came from this farm here.
And that was exciting for me because that was the first time that the California State Fair accepted cannabis as an agricultural commodity and did an awards show around it. Usually the state fairs are reserved for wine grape growers or other types of ag.
Livestock producers.
And they let in the cannabis people this year.
I know, it was so
It's
exciting.
amazing.
I've been pounding the drum that cannabis is ag, cannabis is ag.
So we've been cut out of the Agricultural Alliance in Lake County. It seems like there's been a line drawn for a very long time between cannabis farming and typical agriculture, and to tell us that this is not ag is pretty crazy to me. Like, it's a plant.
Yeah.
It goes in the dirt. Here on this farm, how many acres of canopy do you have?
It's 2 acres of canopy. It's actually 80,000 square feet due to licensing.
How much weight do you get off a plant like this on average?
Honestly, we aim for 2 pounds per plant.
2 pounds per
Yeah,
plant.
so we're, we like to grow in a hedge, and we like to grow mini plants with a lower yield.
Yeah.
We can get in and hollow out and thin the plants. The penetration for our foliar feeding is much better and just easier on our team. So we will harvest it in 18-inch branches, and then we'll dry in our buildings. We use Quest dehumidifiers. We've got 30-ton HVAC. We've got humidification as well, and then lots of airflow through oscillating fans and floor fans.
And how many Quest units do you use and what square footage?
So in our 4,000 square foot building, we've got 10 of the 225s.
225s.
225s, yeah.
What's it like kind of being a woman on the forefront of leading policy and change and writing ordinances as well as managing a farm like this?
It's all I've ever known. In anything that I've ever done, I've been a woman in a male-dominated industry.
Same.
So I don't know any different.
Yeah.
I can't say that, oh, I've had a hard time, because I don't look at it as a hard time. I just push forward.
This is obviously a far cry from how cannabis used to be trimmed up here in NorCal the last 10, 20 years.
Still is in some places.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this is about as heavy duty as it gets. Tell us a little bit about how trimming is done in NorCal before some of this equipment came along.
Prior to this equipment and automation, it's a pair of fiskers and somebody's sitting over a trim bin for hours and hours and weeks and days and months on end to harvest a crop. People would come in droves and, you know, you'd find them at Safeway or waiting in front, and you would just pick up your trimmers for the season and go up to your property, and people would stay for 2-3 months out of the year, basically camping out on your property, in your homes, in your kitchen. They called them trimmigrants,
It's not a very pleasant name.
No.
Yeah, sometimes they'll like say, okay, you can get in, but we're gonna blindfold you and drive you to the middle of where our farm is.
It has happened, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're in NorCal, there's just a certain kind of, the cannabis industry is just different than anywhere else. It attracts a different kind of person. Like, it's funny because people say the cannabis industry attracts a different kind of person.
Yeah.
Then I would say if you're a NorCal grower,
Yeah.
that is a special kind of person within that subset of special kind of people. And they're interesting, they're characters.
Yes, it definitely is, you know, spawned off of a culture that started decades ago of people moving here to grow cannabis, live a different kind of a lifestyle, live off the land, grow their crop. From that evolution, it's attract all types, from, you know, cartels to mom and pops and everything in between. And one of the funniest hydro store experiences I ever had, and I used to go to this little hydro shop in Marin, you know, it's probably over 15 years ago now. There was this woman that would come in and she would hold crystals over all of the bottles of fertilizers and nutrients. And after she left, I asked the guy that worked there, what is she doing? He's like, that's how she picks her nutrients. I was like, really? He said, yeah, she just walked out with 2 bottles a day. But she might have been killing it, like, who knows?
Bro, yeah. You know, most people buy trimming equipment for their farm. Their farm is a discrete, you know, amount of canopy.
Yeah.
You guys had to like buy trimming equipment saying like, you know what? We have to have enough trimming equipment for 10, 20 different farms. And we don't even know how much it'll be every year. So you just had to go big, right?
Yeah, so we had to get the throughput for our community. What we have here, which is the Mobius 108S, we have 4 of them in line. We use 2 in tandem, and it's just been a really great machine to kind of scale up the capacity for the size facility that we have and the throughput that we have. So these machines will process with 2 lines in tandem, 260 pounds in an hour of wet weight and about 140 dry weight per line, depending on the type of product that you're working with, of course. Mobius is also what I would consider kind of the Ferrari of the trim machines that are available out there today. You can adjust the fan speed, you can adjust the blade, you can adjust the tilt on the machine, and all of those adjustments you can tailor to the specific type of cultivar that you're running through the machine. All cultivars are not created equal. Some will have more duff, larf, whatever you want to call it, on the bud itself. As it goes through the conveyor belts into the 2 Mobius processors, once it's trimmed, it'll pop out through the hopper here. The hopper will run it into the sorter, and the sorter has these different band lengths between them, and we can adjust those sizes. So it'll give you kind of small, medium, and large size buds.
They said that you're kind of the pro over here at this Roll Pros machine, no pun intended. But like, you guys are all about automation here and helping people, you know, do a lot of throughput, make good products. So this is what you guys are leaning on for the pre-roll side.
Yes, it's really hard to compete with what this is putting out. We're right around like 900 joints in an hour, 100 to 150 in a month, and we're right around 2 million in a year. So there's no way one person or even a few people is gonna be able to do that for you. Actually, the COG would come down to about 3 cents per joint. This is your traditional style, like roll. It's something that nobody else that I know of has on the market. So just like a hand roll, these things are not like stuffed. You don't use a pick or you don't shake anything. It's actually rolled, like just like with your hands, not stuffed in any way or shaken like a knockbox. We can get down to about 0.35 and we can get all the way up to about 1.25 for the size of the joint.
Got
grams.
it. Grams of cannabis per joint.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So also, that being said, we have different types of papers that we can choose from. You can get different colors like blue, green. You can get your rice paper. You can get the Lazy Susan. There's different options on papers. It just, what is your preference? Customer service so far has actually been top notch also. We haven't had any trouble trying to get a hold of them, and that's usually one of the troubles with some of these machines. When you need things to be fixed, you want people to be very responsive, so it's been great so far.
We have a brand called Smugglers coming out. My co-founder Shord came up with the name, and it was something that he wanted to do for a very long time. His mother and father basically were smugglers back in the day, smuggled cannabis all throughout Europe and India and other places in the world. And my father actually went to jail in Mexico in Juarez in the 70s for smuggling cannabis. And so we're kind of the legacy children of these smugglers. Brett Bird, who most people refer to as Bird, he's won 10 Emerald Cups. He studied under Frenchie Cannoli, who had traveled the world and learned all these different ways to make hash throughout his experiences through the world. Bird became a protege of his and learned how to make traditional temple balls, which we're really excited that we're starting this library of temple balls where we have 3, 6, and 9-month-old temple balls, and we're gonna get them even older. And then we have a brand called Cali Girls coming out, which is our fun, female-focused brand. Then we have Artemis Farms, which is our full-spectrum sun-grown brand that comes from this region. We're working on the Appalachians project to get kind of our region and our terroir from where we cultivate cannabis uniquely identified so that you have consistency with that sun-grown flower.
So Autumn, your friend Weston let us crash his, patio of his restaurant, and I guess this place has a little bit of significance to you?
Yeah, so I refer to this as my other kitchen. When I work too much and I'm too tired to cook, I will usually grab my laptop and my binders and whatever I'm working on and pull up a corner in this restaurant and eat some amazing food.
January 1st of 2020, I opened the Saw Shop Public House. We're very proud of the fact that we make all of our own sauces. We're a scratch kitchen, so we're making everything from basic ingredients.
Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Mike from Growers House and CannaCribs Consulting. So one of the big updates that we want to kind of go over and explain is the VPS cloning gel. It actually comes with this kind of new applicator tip. It's kind of like a sriracha top, it's kind of cool. But what this allows us to do is get a very fine and very precise dot on each cube instead of filling a vessel and then dipping all of our clones in. When I go through this, you can either go up or down, but this allows you to use as little as possible without contaminating any other cell. Doing my best not to touch the applicator tip to the actual substrate. You just want the little meniscus, that little bubble of goo to touch, and it'll adhere and you can just pull off. Rooting hormones is not one of those products where more is better. In this, you're looking for a precise range. But once you go beyond that, then we start to see delirious effects. One of these bottles will generally last for this 16-ounce bottle here, generally for about 1,400 cuts. So if you're using half a mil to a third of a milliliter, which is just a tiny half of a bubble, half of a dab, then you can stretch this out and still get the same, if not better, rooting results than a lot of the other gels out there.
So I'm the VP of Operations here at Artemis, in charge of all of our manufacturing, co-packing, packaging, distribution operations on site here on campus. I've been in the industry for about 13 years.
Let's go over this a little bit, how you guys are able to do so much of the co-packing and automation that you guys do.
Sure. All of this equipment, including this piece of equipment behind us here, kind of come at an extremely high rate of throughput. This Massman packaging machine here, we use this for bagging flour. This can accommodate as many as 65 bags per minute. Now, we've never quite achieved that. If you can imagine just how many units that is, 65 a minute, more than 1 per second coming out of the funnel here. And that is for anything as small as a gram to an eighth to a quarter, 7 grams to a half ounce, 14 grams, all the way up to an ounce. To operate this Massman machine, we typically have 2 people running it. And in the rare occasion that there is an issue that we come across with this piece of equipment, all we have to do is pick up the phone and give the guys a call.
So Taylor, what's the step-by-step process of, a nug of cannabis going through this system?
Sure. So once it has been dried and trimmed and cured and everything upstream, we will then bring it into this room. This is our flower packaging room. Everything goes upstairs here to the green vaults. We have actually 2 separate lines. The green vault is a very fancy weighing and sorting system. The throughput on those green vault machines is as much as 25 units a minute. Obviously, minimizing the damage to the bud as much as possible is paramount. And so that air cush technology from the green vaults, as the buds are going through the green vault system, they are basically cushioned by a pillow of air throughout the entire process.
Well, Taylor, yeah, thank you for the deep dive into this. This is some awesome equipment. Now I'm gonna hop over to the next building.
I did about 10 years of cannabis cultivation before I got into the extracts side of it. I wanted to educate myself a little bit on the process so that I could learn what was being done and try to find the best way to utilize any of the material that I had. What I was exposed to was solvent-based products. I didn't really have access to solventless products at first. I didn't know they existed. Cartridge and vape pens and concentrates. You would see that made with like a ethanol or a butane or a propane extract.
Things like batter, diamonds,
sauce,
shatter,
exactly.
Sauce, yeah.
We saw all that stuff first. Everybody in America that I know smoked solvents first.
Yeah.
We didn't have access to hashish or rosin yet. In the process of learning and educating myself on it is when I found out about solventless and was just blown away by the fact that you can make something of that quality from just ice, water, heat, and pressure. Hashish is definitely my passion.
Hash is really the first concentrate there ever was of cannabis.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking back into, what is it, Nepal?
12th century?
Afghanistan, yeah. It's like, literally, they've been making concentrates since back then.
Concentrates were made before people started cultivating cannabis. Cannabis was grown naturally, right, in a field. Somebody went to the cannabis plant to get seeds off of it, grabbed the plant and popped the seeds out. That's when you made hash. You touched it and you made hash all over your fingers. I think we made hash before we made weed.
Whew. Wow, okay.
I want everywhere in the world to think of hash made in America as like top tier. We need to be known for it because we're in, I feel like, the best place to grow cannabis. My teacher, Frenchie, traveled the whole world and he lived here, and he always said that. He lived here because the best cannabis in the world is grown here. Frenchie Canoli just was an amazing teacher and inspiration to everybody that spent his life traveling the world, and I got to actually get to learn from him on a little bit of a different level.
For some people who don't maybe totally know why it's so unique and what you guys are doing to it, these things like temple balls, like...
I got one right here for you we can show you, and I'll explain a little bit of the process to you. So what we have here is a temple ball that I think it's like 3 months old right here, this one, somewhere around there. What you do to make this is you take the loose resin form, which would be just the shiny trichome, the diamond that you would see on the cannabis bud. So those shiny things would be trichomes is what we call them. So you take just those trichomes and you put them in a pile and you use a boiling hot bottle of water that you crushed all the trichomes with. Very similar to how you would crush all the grapes to make wine. Because of the gassing off of this gas that is in there, it's going to allow it to increase terpenes and can gain a terpene that's not even found in the loose resin or the flower. It was actually found by the Border Patrol people that were trying to test hashish coming in, and the drug dogs weren't able to smell it. And it was because it had a terpene that they didn't teach them to smell because it wasn't in the flower or the loose resin, so they didn't know they needed to teach the dog for that.
I mean, it's kind of crazy that it's like, you guys are aging, you said you have 3 months, you have 6 months, you have 9 months. Yeah, let's talk about what are the effects of, hash compared to flower, compared to other extracts.
There's more nuances that you share when you're smoking hashish than when you're smoking an extract like a rosin or a solvent-based extract. Those are very quick highs that are very fast, very quick. You're gonna be very, very high, and they're gonna be clean highs, and they're gonna be shorter highs.
This interesting product that you ended up developing in concert with Press Club, where you were making temple balls with like this wine bottle you were telling me. Like, let's go into that a little bit.
So I've always thought, like, why don't we have something designed for making a temple ball? A couple years ago, I went to Press Club. I just like reached out to them like, hey guys, I got this really cool idea, something we need to make. And they just, within the last 2 years, made it happen. Cool thing about this temple ball roller is it's designed so your hands don't actually come in contact with the boiling hot water. There's an extra cavity inside of here that's filled with air. So what you're gonna do is just slowly apply pressure. And in the beginning, you're more just trying to distribute the heat. You're not trying to apply much pressure. You need the liquefaction to happen. And once that process has started to really happen, then you can apply a little bit more force. The first designed for rolling temple balls, not something we've actually just retrofitted and adapted. Our relationship between me and Press Club started when I started teaching classes. I would tell them I use these bags when I press rosin. For their rosin bags, they've developed a way to make them from a material, instead of a normal rosin bag is woven together, and that's how you get your micron size. Well, they use a machine that like stamps out the material and done the proper way where we put multiple bags inside of each other. That eliminates blowouts 100%. What we got here is our Press Club rosin press. So we're gonna just apply a small amount of pressure to it. What I do is count to 10 in between applying pressure to the next press so that we don't have too much pressure applied to the loose resin. We're gonna replicate that until I start having some rosin coming out. If you see rosin coming out and just dripping down the press, you should have lowered your temperatures on your press, or you should have not applied so much pressure. You've spent so much time and so many steps to get to this process. I always tell everybody just to slow down and do it really low and really slow.
So Bird, we were jumping into talking about the particulars of cannabis, and there's something that you brought up that I thought was really interesting about when to harvest cannabis. Let's dive into that.
So yeah, that's something that's kind of a touchy subject, I would say. A lot of people have their feelings on when do you harvest, right? What are the cues that you look for when you harvest? And a lot of people like to refer to the amberness of a trichome. And I feel like that's a little bit of misinformation taught to people. The real way to actually identify when a trichome is ready to be harvested .
California is like the biggest cannabis market in the US.
Yeah.
It's like you're kind of the first true fundamentally co-packer. I can see this, you know, becoming definitely more common of a theme in states as they go out. But usually when things happen in cannabis, they first happen in California and then it splinters off into the rest of the markets as they get more mature. So I think you're probably starting something that we're gonna see a lot more of in the future.
And frankly, some of the regs don't even allow it. Like Florida, you have to be completely vertically integrated. There's certain states that don't allow these silos for you to even work with other businesses, which is really counterintuitive to business.
Yeah.
Farmers can't afford to put up a 10, 20, 30,000 square foot drying facility on their property to go through the building department to get permits, to spend, 8 to 9 months building something out. It's a lot of money and it's a lot of time. And so this kind of fast tracks that for cultivators so that they don't have to spend money on the post-processing, but they know that their product's going to be respected, it's going to be taken care of, and it's going to be understood by legacy operators that have been doing this for a very long time.
Like and subscribe because your mom or my mom?
Your mom.
That said, I mean, look, we both have been hosts. Oh, these f***ing flies are out of control right now.
Now they just got really bad.
Why don't you get the thing?
Continuity-wise, it might throw off the scene a little, but
I think
What,
if you
no
put
flies?
it like...
Sorry, this
Yeah, that fly is really after you. He's He's gonna kill me after this because he does not like cameras in his face.
No, you remember from last time, right? Yeah. If it's French frozen.
French frozen.
Yes. Gianna, I also do not know why they turn the lights off in every room that we film in.
She loves this stuff, man.
Gianna's our editor. Well, I think we're gonna get like it. Yeah, we're gonna geek it.
We're gonna geek it.
Okay.